Hello, and welcome to episode 141 of the Mighty Whites podcast. It's been even more of a while, too long to even do the Stained reference. I'm Jack, as always, joined by Casey.
How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, you?
Yeah, not so bad.
We picked a really good under-23s game to skip, didn't we?
Yeah, so you with an early start yesterday, and me just generally being tired. But I'll give this one a miss. It'd be fine.
Yeah,
They've not been the most promising results.
Doesn't bode well for the Villa game that we're both going to. We haven't done a podcast actually since before Newcastle, but we're just going to pretend that didn't happen because it was shit and annoying. So straight into the 23s game, which I believe I'm the only one that watched 90 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah. Casey having a life and stuff got in the way. But yeah, Leeds 23's free, Liverpool 23's nil. 8,500 there, which is a really good turnout. I'd like to see what would have happened if we'd have been in the sort of form we were early season. And a game against Liverpool at this time of year came up. I keep wondering what the sort of ceiling is for an under-23s game. And then I remember that Leeds versus Man United reserves game that like 30,000 people showed up to. And think, I'd love to see something like that again. But so did you just see the like YouTube highlights or something?
Yeah, I've just seen the goals.
Right. Well, Leeds were very, very good in the first half. They almost scored after about a minute. Somerville got in behind. It finish wasn't particularly great, to be honest, but it was a good save. But they were a constant threat. And I know that we bang on about him playing in the 23s all the time, but Somerville just making runs in behind constantly and always looked a threat. And the difference between when you see us be poor and when you see us be good is the passing to pick him out was much better. Jenkins played a couple of really good balls in behind. And Jeremiah Mullen as well, who was playing centre-back alongside Charlie Cresswell, played some really good balls. So that it was just constant. It really looked like it does appear that if there was any sort of a falling out over him asking to leave and go out on loan and stuff, that it doesn't seem to have wound him up too much. It seemed to fire him up rather than piss him off.
Yeah, it was interesting seeing Phil Hayes, reporting his comments about it, and it seemed, I don't, bleaker is not the word, but it did seem like he very much wanted out. And again, I don't know if that's just the language Bielsa uses. Obviously said if he, any player that wants out, that they can go, I won't stop them. But it's quite funny because you don't normally see a player demanding to go out, and then when's the next time you see them? Oh, they're starting for the under-23s.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't even say the rumour because it's a bit stronger than a rumour. I won't say where. There'll have been a lot of the people that listen to this. A lot of them will have heard this because it was on another podcast. I won't put the name to it just in case they don't want me to, but I'm fairly sure they put it out publicly. But there was a rumour that basically that Blackburn under-23s game where they were absolutely awful and got battered around deadline day, where they got beat 4-0. Somerville was meant to start in that game and just wasn't there and was in Holland.
Yeah.
Is the rumour to do with it. It's what has been heard coming out of various places. Even before they said it, there was a lot said about it online and stuff anyway. So it sounds like that might well be true. But with the Somerville one, in the same way that I understand the Dramé one, I just don't, because he had 2 weeks left in the window, I think he could have afforded to wait a week.
Yeah.
This Somerville one, I have a little bit more sympathy because he's had so few minutes and he is far too good to be playing under 23 football. And he's never going to get a real run in the side because he plays in the same position as Rafinha.
Yeah. I think one defence of it would be he has been on and off the bench fairly frequently with injuries this season as well. Nothing particularly major, but he has kind of been in and out there. I would expect him to be on the bench more often whilst we don't have Bamford in the team, just because at that point we're generally utilising all three wingers. Which, I would like to see him get a bit more playing time again, not just for the sake of it, but he has looked good when he's come on the last couple of times.
Yeah.
And I suppose when you're in his position as now a Holland under 21, those are players that are typically playing week in, week out, and you can't really expect to keep your place in a team at that level playing reserve team football.
Yeah, and it's not like he's 17. He's 20.
Yeah,
which is still young. You're still going to develop, but he does need to play. He'd be one of. I don't know how much money he's on now, and I think he's only got 1 year after this. He's one of the ones I'd be offering a new contract to and saying, but I promise, if you're not getting loads of minutes by the time we get to the back end at summer transfer window, you can go out.
Yeah.
Because he can't keep sitting in reserves. The first, as I say, he was the main threat. The goal putting us 1-0 up at half time. Somerville gets in down the right, cuts inside, good save, falls to Jack Jenkins, who's following it well. Really good finish. And at half time, Leeds had been, I thought they were worth a lead. They were pretty good. And the worry with the 23s lately has been that drop off, which has been stark in a lot of games. It really is.
You mean where we stopped defending?
Yeah, it sort of looks like they're just. It looks like they're unfit, but it can't be that. I don't know if they just falter a bit system wise or something like that, or if they are running themselves so hard in the first half that they are running out of kill. But
maybe Mark Jackson's just naive.
Yeah, true. There was a couple of games where that is a naive team. There was one of them where they were like two. I think they were drawing with Man City with like 2 minutes left, and they threw like 9 players forward and just conceded. It was really ridiculous. But there was a drop off in the second half, for a good 20, 25 minutes. Liverpool then were the better side, but Leeds did have a threat on the break. At half time, God, my brain keeps, because I've been talking about Villa, my brain wanted to call him John McGinn there. Adam McGurk. Is who I meant. He came on for Noan Kenner, and Jenkins dropped to DM. And we really did miss Kenner in there. At DM, he looks far better than he did as a centre-back for most of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, obviously I've not watched a whole lot of Noan Kenner, but the times I've seen him in defence, there's been nothing to shout about. Really, I've not been massively keen on a number of our defenders in the 23s. To be fair, and I think we've looked significantly weaker anytime we've not had Cresswell in the team.
Yeah, well, that is one thing that I was going to call on to. Charlie Cresswell returned in this game, played 90 minutes. I suppose the good thing with it being a shoulder injury is he won't have lost much of his fitness, because he'll have still been able to go out running and everything. But he came back in and made a massive difference. The entire defence looked far more settled. Even Klassen looked a bit more settled by his standards. He still had a couple of really dodgy passes out from the back, but he looked a lot better in this game. But the one that stood out at the back, as much as Cresswell made all the difference, was Jeremiah Mullen, who... it's weird with him because he played in that team full of actual children that we sent to Accrington Stanley that got hammered. And I remember thinking at the end, he stood up about the best of all those kids.
Yeah.
And then he hadn't played much because I don't get to see the under-18s. And the couple of times he's played in 23s, I didn't really see much. But in this game, he was excellent. Defended really well. And the thing that really helped was he was getting on the ball and stepping out, beating a man and beating the press. And then, generally speaking, he used the ball well as well. He was very, very good. I say, Kenner being there really helped. Archie Gray played in midfield, and despite being so far above his age group, was really good. It was really good to see. Leeds then got 2 penalties relatively late on. Somerville got him behind for the first one. His touch wasn't great when he was sprinting in behind. He was a bit off balance, and he gets the slightest little push and goes down, and they get the penalty. It was a bit harsh, to be honest. But Somerville got up, took the penalty well, scored. and then Somerville dribbles into the box, gets poofed up in the air. This one really was a penalty. Because he got properly kicked on this one, he actually went off for treatment. Because you are allowed to... the only exception for an outfield player that you can stay on is if you're taking the penalty. Because it came up in a Leeds game a couple of years ago. And this time, Max Dean took it, another really good penalty.
Max Jimmy Dean, as apparently is his full name. Jimmy seeming like an odd middle name, but sure.
Isn't Jimmy Dean a sausage in America?
It's, I think Jimmy Dean is a sandwich place.
I thought that was Jimmy John's.
Ah, yeah, you're right. Hey,
because they're on Brock Lesnar's shorts.
Yeah, sorry, you're right. Jimmy, yeah, they are a sausage maker.
Yeah.
Founded by country singer and actor Jimmy Dean.
Well, the more you know.
One thing that I did... No, I'm invested now, Jack. Come on.
I did notice that there was no Hjelde at all. Obviously, he is currently first-team squad. But because Hjelde didn't play at all and he took Kenner off at half-time, my worry is that Kenner's needed for the bench. But he might be on it anyway because Chris Moore's been on it. And he wasn't awful. I'm not digging him out. But if one player on the pitch didn't do well, it was probably Chris Moore. He didn't have a particularly good game.
Yeah. In the bits I've seen, I've not been...
By the way, okay, so just... Hey, I mean, Ali getting in touch. Jimmy Dean was a singer, did Big Bad John. Good to know.
It's good to know Ali's always got our back.
Yeah, proving his quizzing credentials there, Ali. Which, is something that I can respect. Yeah. Somerville, almost certainly for me, will not be on the bench on Wednesday because of all of this that's gone on behind the scenes and the press conference and everything. But if you're talking purely football reasons, he definitely should be.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get onto it, but I'm trying to think. I assume the winger that will be on the bench would be McKinstry.
Probably. Like, McKinstry looks decent, but he doesn't... I just don't personally think he's going to make it. Like, he played right back against Blackburn, which was weird. It wasn't good.
Inverted fullback.
Like, because he stepped up a bit recently and he does have a slight bit of first team experience, if one of them's going to be on the bench and Somerville's not the one, I'd probably say Amari Miller should be the one. If one of those two is going to be on the bench, I'd pick him at the minute.
Tyler Roberts.
Yeah, well, he might start. You never know. And to be honest, if it's going to be Rodrigo in midfield, I don't particularly... I'd be fine with it being Roberts. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, it was a really big win for them because obviously they're in a relegation battle as well over 23s for the same reason, Well,
they're playing like the first team. You've got to replicate these situations, and that's what the 23s have done.
Yeah, but they've done... that was a really big result. They did mention on commentary that they're going to play a fair few at Ellen Road between now and end of season, which is good. I hope loads of people turn out for it because I think it's good for everyone if they do. This question is shamelessly nicked from a Square Ball podcast from like just after deadline day. What would you give the transfer window out of 10?
I am more positive than most, I think. So I'm probably leaning towards a 4 or a 5. And a lot of that is heavily weighted on no one good leaving. I didn't expect... I'd never went into this expecting anything to happen. Like, I think we've been burned before by, Augustin mainly.
Who?
Some lad who we allegedly tried to sign, but can't really remember.
I believe the deal fell through as option expired.
Yeah. Outside of that, you look at the players. I mean, it's a little bit there's part of you does think, like, why didn't we take Harry Winks or why didn't we take Donny van der Beek? Like, now whether Van der Beek would have chosen Everton ahead of us is kind of another issue.
I understand why we didn't take Winks. I'm having more trouble understanding why we didn't take Van der Beek.
Well, we've got Lewis Bate. Is basically the answer to that question. As
I really like Lewis Bate.
The problem is when you sit through that Newcastle game and you're doing this footballing arithmetic of, right, we have a striker, we're playing him in centre mid, we're playing a winger as a striker, and then the one sort of the next sort of true striker that we have, because at this point I'm not entirely sure what Robert's best role is. I think it's probably as a striker, but the next out and out striker in our team is Gelhardt, who I don't know what he did to not get on first in that Newcastle game.
Well, I mean, in fairness to Bielsa, he did say in his press conference he only got past fit the day before. I didn't want to push him.
Yeah.
I would argue if you're fit enough to be on the bench, you're fit enough to do more than about 15 minutes. And I mean, he barely had a kick at ball. He didn't do it, but that's because he had no midfield behind him at that point.
Yeah. I mean, the other issue would then be, how long do Winks or Van der Beek take to get fit for that system? And then do they get instantly replaced once Phillips is fully fit and we go back to Phillips, Forshaw and Click in the middle? Which would be, as a general thought, the idea that Matthijs Click would basically keep Donny van der Beek out of the team is hilarious. Because it's Donny van... Oh, yeah. Obviously on the square, I think it was the Phil Hay show. They were talking about, obviously, Minamino would come in essentially as the replacement to Somerville.
Which is weird because Minamino has probably played more football centrally than he has out wide.
Yeah. But yeah, that's always going to be the problem, that you get these players in, whether they're permanent signings or short-term deals. And depending on the time frame of the players coming back from injuries, who knows what sort of playing time they're going to get, and what good does it do as having Harry Winks not play, but be on our books, also be away from home. Like, he's clearly not going to be happy.
Yeah, and would probably be on. I mean, especially Van der Beek, but both of them will probably be on fairly good money.
Yeah, so at that point, and I knew we weren't going to get a striker in, because as soon as they get fit, as soon as Bamford gets fit, that striker is going to drop out of the team.
Yeah,
like, there's no doubt in my mind, whatever they did, that Bamford's coming back in. So, like, I don't know what to expect, and I think the thing I take issue with a few people now is, now that I look back on kind of the comments that were made by Kinnear, especially in the programme, is that Angus Kinnear's kind of damned if he doesn't, damned if he doesn't. Like, if he says, there is, that Simon's war chest is there for Marcelo, you're then sort of hanging your manager out to dry for not signing anyone. If he says the money's not there, then it looks like the club's been cheap. There is no point us signing players to then go, look, Marcelo, it's another centre mid, and he's like, yeah, but Lewis Bates there. It's like, why have you done that? Like, we're fine. So there's no point having these around. So I just feel like between Orta, Kinnear, and Bielsa, there's kind of this little dance that has to go on where they're all on side, all on side with each other, and trying to make it look like they are interested in doing a deal, but as long as it's the right deal.
Yeah.
And clearly the one deal they wanted to do was Aronson, which wasn't going to happen.
Now, it's weird. You said 4 or 5, and I've ended up on a 4. Because my minimum passing grade at uni is like 40% in it for a third. Well, not selling anyone is that. And we did, and no disrespect to Mateo Joseph Fernandez, we didn't sign anyone.
Yeah,
So that's about
the under 23 signed a player.
Barely. He's like, I mean, he's had 2 sub appearances totaling about 5 minutes. I would say at the minute the 18s have signed a player, and he might turn out to be an absolute bargain. And I hope he does. I hope he's a fucking world beater. But I can't give it any more than that.
No, which is fair. Like, we didn't sign anyone in a transfer window where, logically speaking, we definitely should have signed someone. If you are talking purely in terms of looking at the squad and looking at the position where we are, we absolutely should have signed someone.
Mm.
But you then have to go, well, do they fit all the parameters that Bielsa is looking for? Do they fit the budget? And it's like going through Football Manager and just limiting I want a box-to-box midfielder between the ages of 22 and 24. They must be born in Europe. Their passing must be at least 16. You're just adding more and more bits until this list of players gets narrower and narrower. To the point where you're just like, sod it, we'll be fine.
Yeah. Whereas you were saying, like, your expectation was that we wouldn't sign anyone. By the midpoint in the transfer window, I was the same. At the start, I did think we would sign one central midfielder. Like, I really thought that they would go, no,
You're a mug, Rob Shaw. You're a mug.
Yeah, we do really need a central midfielder. But no, it never happened. It's a bit weird. I do like that it keeps Bate in with a shout, because I do really like Bate from what I've seen of him. But
the one thing I will say, and look, it's great that we've set this record for giving the most number of teenagers a debut in a season. You also can't pretend that was by design,
or that really makes any shite of a difference, because a lot of them, like Stuart McKinstry, counts as one of debuts this season. He played about 15 minutes.
Yeah, there's some merit to some of those players, and I think most, any of the ones that started, I think are fine, and I think any of them that played a significant amount of time in a game, but at the same, we can't pretend that the last 3 years didn't happen where, outside of strike, and even that was just last season, the progress from the 23s to the first team has been fairly minimal.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, Jack Clark was the big one. He did properly force his way in. But there is a lot of them.
And then he got replaced by Jack Clark's doppelganger.
Yeah, that weird guy that we got on loan from Spurs. I don't know who that was, but it wasn't Jack Clark. It is a weird one. Like, there's been a lot of people on about it, and they are right. Yeah, we've given 8 debuts to teenagers this season, but in terms of actual total minutes given to them, it's not very high.
No, and then I feel like Gelhardt is the next one to break through.
He's the one
properly.
Who they have stopped picking him for the 23s.
Yeah, I think he is a first team player now, but
yeah,
it's clearly the third choice striker still. Dan James is ahead of him right now. Somehow he is ahead of Spanish international Rodrigo in this absolute mindfuck of a Leeds United team that I support.
I'm still not 100%. Given if it came down to one or the other, I'm still thinking that Bielsa might well pick Roberts.
Yeah,
I would disagree, but I think he would.
Yeah, I think it is part of what makes supporting Leeds at the moment as entertaining as it is, that you have to have these conversations where our record signing is a Spanish international striker who we almost seemingly refuse to play as a striker, but he plays in centre midfield, despite the fact that his pressing game visually, I've not got the statistics, but visually doesn't seem to stand up to what the rest of the team has to do.
I personally haven't checked it myself. I know that they did look into it on one of All Stats Aren't We pods a few months ago, and his numbers are actually better than you'd think. But it's the pressing numbers are weird because successful pressure is like if the opposition loses the ball within 5 seconds of you closing them down, basically. So if he gets nowhere near with a pressure, but someone misses a 35-yard pass, that counts as a successful. So it's a bit of a weird metric that I don't think the smarter people than me that do things like that have not yet figured out how you should really measure it.
What you're saying is that if I catch COVID, then within 28 days I get hit by a bus. That's a successful press.
By the bus, yes.
just to make that a real world analogy.
Yeah.
I cannot just say, still, I just want it on record now. I'm not a COVID denier or anything like that. just for when that gets wheeled out and I get misquoted.
Yeah. I believe that what you said is, I aren't having none of that 5G in my arm. I believe is what you said. It's sort of a weird one. Like we've touched on it, but I did like note down, is the at least no one left a legitimate argument, and I really do think it is.
Yeah.
But there would have been, if they'd have sold someone big in January, they were just never gonna, because there'd have been a fucking march on the ground if they'd have done that.
No, I think in terms of players that are in the first team that fans would be accepting of leaving for varying, I suppose not varying reasons, fairly similar, are Roberts and I think Rodrigo. I think if he'd have gone,
I did think that I genuinely think there was something to that Barcelona talk. Because they seem to be, they're so weird with transfers. And they did bring in players. And I do think that there was maybe something to that. And if that option was there, I would have probably cut my losses just because he doesn't suit. But I think the worry that they've got is if Bielsa goes in the summer, maybe he will suit the next guy, so they don't just want to sell him off cheap because he is good. He just does not suit our system.
Like, I really felt like Newcastle was a time, and especially once you'd seen a couple of the chances that we didn't take in that first half, where I would have thought, put Rodrigo up front. Like, I know he's not an off-the-shoulder striker or anything like that, but you can't tell me he wouldn't have been in a better position in the middle than Dan James ended up being. Because, as good as we were down the wings, and as good as some of the balls into the middle are, if you've not got the man there, there is an argument that if you're putting a ball into a dangerous area but there's no one there, it's not really a good ball unless a defender chucks themselves at it. There was that Dan James ball in the second half that I think he sort of curled across the 6-yard box, but there was no one there. There was never anyone there. It's not as if someone overran it.
Yeah. It was that Newcastle game was incredibly frustrating to watch because we weren't great in the first half, but we should have been 2 up, maybe more. And then in the second half performance against Newcastle, that was maybe, other than that, Brighton away last year and Southampton away this year are maybe the only games we've been worse.
I think I described it to you as creatively void. Like, we just absolutely nothing. Rafinha never got into the game. We didn't get down the wings at all.
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that. I did actually say leaving the game that the second half was one of the worst 45 minutes that Rafinha's had.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you anything anyone did offensively. We just offered absolutely nothing. But let's not get into that now. I've just recovered.
Let's hope that we don't offer nothing tomorrow, especially seeing as we're going. So, Villa away. 8 p.m. tomorrow night.
And I will definitely be on the bus.
You'd better fucking get there, mate.
Definitely on the bus.
But basically, the coach leaves at 4:15, I think it is.
Yep.
Casey works in a school.
I meant to work until 3:30 at a school in York.
How far, in theory, is your drive? How long does it take? In theory,
35 to 40 minutes. I am basically leaving school as the kids leave school.
Is there someone at work you could have a word with to be out 2 minutes before the kids?
Yeah, I might try.
I would if I was you, because it's only 2 away trips ago that the coach was waiting for just you. But that was different. That's because you were in the queue at McDonald's.
That was McDonald's fault. I was waiting for that food for 15 minutes and still never got it.
Yeah.
You had to bring that trauma back, didn't you?
Yes, I did. And hopefully we can
that
bring
was
the trauma.
That was definitely the worst part about that game, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully we'll bring the trauma back to Villa because we won there 3-0 last season.
Yeah. If I'm being honest, I'm less confident.
Yeah.
They're playing quite well under Stevie at the moment. Turns out he's a good manager who's taken time to learn his craft, unlike the Everton manager. But I don't know if they can manage in the same division together, to be honest.
No. Yeah. Frank Lampard has now had the time to learn his craft. He just hasn't because he's not very good. So Villa 4-3-3, wing backs go piling forward a lot. 4-3-3 is us 4-1-4-1. But their midfield is probably going to be Douglas Luiz holding Jacob Ramsey one side, McGinn the other. So how our midfield lines up depends on how attacking John McGinn is. Because sometimes he sits a bit deeper, sometimes he pushes on. Either way, you would think Robin Koch holding Forshaw as the more defensive of the eights. So it just basically changes whether Forshaw is a proper 8 or whether he drops a bit deeper. It doesn't. So system-wise, that's really the only debate: is how far forward will Forshaw play.
Football manager speak. Are we setting him to defensive, deep line playmaker or support?
Support. Yeah.
Yeah. I quite like Villa, like their team. They're a decent team, aren't they? Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've noted down roughly what it'll be because it doesn't change much normally. Emi Martinez in goal, good keeper. Matty Cash, probably Conter and Mings at the back. Luca Dean at left back. Luca Dean terrifies me because his set pieces and open play crossing are good, and we're not particularly good at defending either. Luis, McGinn, Jacob Ramsey midfield. And then it'll probably be Buendia and Coutinho either side of Watkins. Watkins played the last game against Everton. He rotated him a bit, but he seems to have settled on Watkins. Watkins always likes playing against us. And if you're not playing a rapid winger, you probably want your striker to be quicker. Leon Bailey's back in training, but I doubt he'll start. You know, he could potentially drop one of those and play Watkins wide and play Ings, but I don't see it. So I expect that to be their team.
Yeah. I think they're a good group of. I think it's probably your first 11 and your subs. I think are a very good group. I think there's a little bit of a drop off after that, but no, they're playing playing better at the moment. I'm just looking through the results. It's they've had a couple of results in there that you wouldn't be expecting them to get. I know when they played Liverpool, there was a lot of the talk of obviously Gerrard going back there. And they did quite a good job against Liverpool, but at the same time, they did sort of nullify themselves. I think they only ended up having about 3 shots all game.
Yeah, there was a few Villa fans who, don't get me wrong, they weren't mad at him because it's early days and they like him, but they did think that Gerrard was a bit too negative in that game.
Yeah, I can't see them going like that just because I think most teams will know Leeds are there to be got at to some extent if you if you're a central defender and you run in a straight line, you've got about 40 yards. So if Tyrone Ming starts striding forward, it'd be like John Stones at the Etihad last season. But
to be honest, if like we sometimes let them have the ball.
Yeah,
Ming's one of them that it's fine to do that. I think.
Yeah,
him and Conser, although they're not like absolutely dreadful on the ball, but I wouldn't say either one of them's a ball playing centre back.
No.
So that's, but I suppose it's a Premier League footballer. If you give them enough space, they can do something with it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I think if we're going 4-1-4-1, I assume we'll be going. I'm gonna say we go with Dan James up front again.
In the lineup I've got down here, I'm expecting the same.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think your lineup then. In fact, to be honest, your lineup outside of so it'd be in midfield where there'd be the only real change, I'd imagine. So I'm thinking Meslier in goal.
Yep.
Ayling, Llorente, Strike. Do you think Firpo's back for this one?
By the sounds of it in the press conference, he might be fit enough to be on the bench, but I don't see him starting.
So Dallas left back.
Mm-hmm.
Then Cock at Forshaw.
Who it did from the press conference sound like he was back.
Yeah, with the way he's been playing, I wouldn't be leaving him out. I thought he was a player we definitely missed in the second half against Newcastle.
We did.
Keep us ticking over.
Because we can play. Well, I was going to say we lost control of the midfield, but they just stopped being one.
Yeah.
And not in the fun way from that 1-1 against Man City, where both teams were playing 5-0-5. This wasn't that. This was just incompetent, bad levels of midfield.
Yeah. That's a bit the interesting one then. So I think given recent performances, I'd go with Click over Rodrigo.
I have Rodrigo written down here, but I don't want that to be the case. I absolutely would pick Click.
Yeah, and then Rafinha, Harrison, James.
Yeah. Now, I would pick Click, and if he insists on playing Dan James up front, fine. But I would pick Click, and I would play Rodrigo up front.
I'd much rather Rodrigo played up front, and honestly, I just think, given we've not been as prolific as we should have been. I don't know, sort of the history of Marcelo Bielsa's Leeds is underperforming our XG, but I feel like when you've got one striker in your squad really, and he is also a Spain international, I feel like you're making a rod through your own back at that point to start a winger who, while his pressing is excellent, he's not a natural goal scorer in any way.
Yeah. And if, like, Rodrigo is smart enough, if you tell him to just drop deep a bit less, I'm sure he will. Like, it is his natural inclination. That is the way he plays. But Bamford does that as well. It's just that Bamford doesn't do it every single time.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's something I quite enjoy, and I think it's what every football fan enjoys, is like when Dan James is suddenly in our own corner making a slide challenge, and you're like, oh, brilliant! But you are meant to be up front.
Yeah,
well, you are miles out of position now. Like, I know that there are cases when the man is. Like, a man is gone and he needs to track
he did a brilliant one against Newcastle where he chased all the way back to be last man and make a really good tackle. But the difference was that was them breaking on us from a set piece.
Yeah.
So that wasn't running out of position. That was, oh, fuck, someone's got to go and I'm the quickest.
Yeah.
And he got a standing ovation from the crowd, which he deserved as well. It was brilliant. The other question, because I'd say I'd love to see Rodrigo tried up front again, even though I have seen plenty of examples of it not working. So I'm fine if he doesn't. But if he doesn't, the question is, should Joffrey get the start?
I think, yeah, if I was gonna rank it in an order, like a top three of who I'd want to start up front, I think I'd go Rodrigo, Gelhardt, James. Sorry, Tyler. No, you know what? I'll probably want Tyler Roberts to start ahead of Dan James as well. And look, I'm coming round to Dan James. I think he's had some good performances. He's just not a striker.
Yeah.
And I don't know, my view of what a striker is compared to Marcelo Bielsa's is a lot narrower, but I want my striker to be a goal scorer.
Yeah.
Because we don't have many.
The other argument is that if the team was Melier, if the midfield is Koch, Forshaw, Click, and then Rafinha, James Harrison up top, that was the six for that first 20 minutes against West Ham, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which is the best we've looked all season. So if he played Koch, Forshaw, Click, Rafinha, James Harrison, although I don't think Dan James is a striker, I would be perfectly... I'd be fine with that. You just hope that we can grab hold at midfield.
Yeah, I'm just... The thing that gets me at the moment, I'm looking at our goal scorers at the moment. Rafinha is top with 8 and 2 assists. Harrison with 6 and 2 assists. Half of those goals coming in one game. Then it's Bamford, James, and Rodrigo on 2. And then Ayling, Click, Gelhardt, Roberts, Phillips, Dallas, Llorente all with 1. It's not great. Like, it's very good that we've got Rafinha and Harrison there at least. And I know the stats are skewed because of where they played. Dan James is on a goal every 90 minutes. So he's 0.12, whereas Harrison's 0.33. Rafinha is 0.43. It's a real drop off after those two. Bamford's looks a lot better because he's got 2 goals and 3 assists in 7 games at this point.
Yeah. Again, by the sounds of the press conference, he's not going to be back anytime soon.
No.
So, but he's a bigger miss than Phillips is, which I wouldn't have said a year ago. I wouldn't have said at the start of the season. But it has gone that way because I think Robin Koch is getting used to the DM role now, and he's not Phillips, but he's improved.
Yeah, we just really need a goal scorer, and I feel like with the squad we have, we're not actually optimizing. I think if you look to the graphic that the Athletic put out today about areas of the pitch dominated,
I did see that.
You look at the fact that I don't read a lot into us dominating or not dominating in sort of central areas in the opposition half because we don't hold the ball there for long periods of time.
No, and also even the teams that don't play really passing football, pass it round the centre backs a bit. You would expect to not have the ball, dominate the ball there. There was only Man City who dominated it pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, and it's the fact that we dominate dominate the wings. And whilst I understand that we're not a team that puts crosses into the box, we do.
Actually, I would argue we do and do it badly.
Yeah, yeah. That we do best when we get to the byline and we have a striker between the edge of the penalty area and the penalty spot that we can pull it back to, who scores. That's when we've been most successful. I don't know, probably most teams are in that regard, but we go through spurts where we do it really well, and then other periods when we're just putting crosses in. And like you say, you look who's there at the moment. It's Dan James. It's a grand.
Yeah. So the only thing is, 2 predictions. 1, will the coach be waiting for you? And 2, and more importantly, What do you reckon the score will be?
I don't think the coach will be waiting for me.
Because so it's going to fuck off before you get there.
There's going to be a point when you see my car driving alongside the coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if that happens, I just won't get on it. You can just drive to Birmingham.
Oh, thanks. I'm not the most optimistic, but I'm going to say we get a 1-1 draw. I'm taking your prediction.
I've been flicking between 1-1 and 2-1 defeat. To be honest, I just think these are relatively even sides, but at the minute I think they're in a little bit better nick. They've got a bit more confidence and they're at home. So obviously I really want to be wrong, and generally speaking, Leeds are better when I'm pessimistic, which is a factor for me in this. But I think we'll get beat. I think it'll be 2-1 Villa.
Yeah. I'm just trying to say. I'm just having a look now. A win would lift us up to 13th.
Right. I haven't had a look at the table. Obviously, it depends on how
I
the results
yeah,
go.
that's. I have no. Is anyone playing tonight or tomorrow?
There's a couple.
Or is it just
There's 3 games tonight. Newcastle v Everton, which by the way is massive with where they are.
I'd say I'd love a draw.
Burnley are home to Scum, and West Ham are playing Watford. And I wasn't gonna bring this up because it's been done to death, and everyone knows what a twat he is. But how the fuck is Kurt Zouma starting?
Yeah, we condemn these actions, but
Yeah,
but we do. Like,
I know it has nothing to do with football, and I know technically it doesn't have any bearing, technically, on West Ham or his ability to do his job or anything like that. I get all those arguments, but fuck Kurt Zouma.
yeah, it's just tasteless, and like obviously what he did is just fucking disgusting.
Well, I mean, the key is like the fact that was being, the way it was done. That clear. I don't care what he says. That was not isolated.
Who film? Like, I'm sorry.
If you're going out your way to film it, that's not an isolated incident.
I know this doesn't improve the situation, but at what point do you think kicking an animal and just think, well, I best film this? Like, taking aside how horrible what he did was, he's a fucking moron.
Yeah. Also, it's not just it's not like he, one kick.
He's getting his kid to tee the cat up for him.
Yeah, and like throwing stuff at it and things like it's just it's just awful. Connie likes your shirt, by the way. It's that shirt that never existed.
Yeah.
I was absolutely amazed that I just flicked BBC on to check which fixtures were today and which were tomorrow, and it was the headline, and I can't believe he's starting tonight. Then tomorrow there's 4 games tomorrow night: Man City, Brentford, Norwich, Palace, Spurs, Southampton, and us, and then Liverpool, Leicester, and Wolves and Arsenal on the Thursday. So there's a full midweek program.
Yeah, we're gonna finish at 13th. I'm fine with that.
Cool. The one to briefly talk about then, I suppose, is we will briefly talk about Newcastle Everton. Newcastle 21 games, 15 points. Everton 20 games, 19 points.
Newcastle would have snapped your hand off for 21 points.
Yeah. Do we want a draw, or do we want Everton to win? Because it's not really about them. It's just distance to the bottom 3.
I'm going to go for the draw, just because the longer Everton go on this run, the better for me. As much as they are, that is a better squad than where they are in the league. But if they keep this run going, I could see them slip. They're not that far off at this point.
Yeah, and it's fair to say that we don't rate the new manager.
No.
Although the one thing is, even though he isn't good, the Everton fans are very pleased with the appointment. as much as they might take a little bit to get going, Donny van de Beek and Dele Alli aren't like rubbish players. They should improve.
Dele Alli is an interesting one. It'd be like, I have full faith in Donny van de Beek being a good signing because I think genuinely he's a good player who it mystifies me why he's not played in that team at times. Dele Alli is an interesting one in this case, and I hate all the arguments about how he's turned up to training in a Rolls Royce. And you see people going, well, this is a working class club, and I'm like, yeah, fuck him. Why didn't you just do what the other players do and rock up in a 150 grand Range Rover, not a Rolls Royce? Like,
yeah, that was a weird one. I was saying Lampard will do a fantastic job and take them to 17th in the league. That's how it'll be framed if it happens.
He miraculously kept them up.
Yeah, Matt Law wanking off on Twitter. Coach of the year.
That's not imagery that I wanted or needed, but thanks for that.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, you just, as it goes, I think that both of them are going to stay up because I think it will be Burnley, Watford, Norwich.
I told you, Norwich pulling away.
Yeah, they're a whole point. In fairness, when you said they were pulling away from the relegation zone, they were 18th.
Yeah, but then they won a resounding victory. Yeah. I don't want to talk about who it was against, but it was a big win.
Yeah. So hopefully, yeah. I mean, I suppose any of the results, at least someone's dropping points, is the best thing.
Yeah.
There's also the SeatGeek news. Leeds having to deal with them and stuff, but to be honest, I don't really have much to say about it. It is what it is. About half the teams in the Premier League have got this deal now.
Yeah, you just hope it's managed well, because I saw some of the prices that tickets were going for the Man United game, and it's just disgusting.
Yeah, well, I suppose I think the problem is that it's just, I would much rather there was no resale whatsoever and things like that. But I think it's just always going to happen, so regulating it's probably better.
Yeah, I was fully on board with the internal resale where you get money taken off you.
Yeah, that was a good idea.
Ticket. I think it's a fantastic idea.
I mean, I don't know anyone who's going to use it, but it clearly does get used. I have seen people get tickets from it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where clearly if you just don't know anyone who is available to get to a game,
yeah,
like it's a decent, it's a good thing to have.
It's particularly good for Leeds fans that travel. If they suddenly, like on the Friday or on the Thursday, they've now got to work.
Leeds fans that have booked tickets in advance and then Sky changed the game.
Yeah, it's more stuff like, you work you live down south, but you drive up for every game, and then on the Thursday you find out you've got to work Saturday. There's no way around it.
Yeah,
you might not have someone who lives near you that you can give the ticket to, so you can sell it on that. Like if you live anywhere around Leeds, one of your mates is a Leeds fan, so you're probably just going to do that. But no, it'll be. We'll see how it goes. Have we anything else we've missed?
No, I think we're all good.
All right, cool. Well, hopefully we get a result tomorrow because God, we could really do with it. That will do us for episode, I think I said 141 at Light White's podcast. There hasn't been loads going up lately on Through It Altogether because everyone is so busy with work. But I think I'm taking some of the writing duties for the Everton game on Saturday, so you might see some up there. Other than that, I think that'll do us. So I've been Jack. See you.
Katie, have a good one.
In a bit.